Record. Today, we welcome gardener, forager, and community builder Jada B. She is the co-founder of the People's Co-op in Bloomington, Indiana, and she is the author of the book Gardening and Farming Journal, Our Liberation Fruits. Please welcome Jada B.
Yay! Hello, everybody. Um, so I'm not going to be much on camera that much, but I'm gonna try to make sure this setup is okay. Can you hear me all right?
Can hear you just fine. Yep.
Awesome, great. I just want to, we had some difficulty setting up cameras and things like that, so I want to make sure we are all good. So we're talking about preserving our abundance from the garden. I hope you had an abundant year. It's been a little weird with the weather in different places, but we're going to try to make the best of it and preserve what abundance we do have. I want to start first and talk about seed collecting and how important seed collecting is to your gardens and to your mini farms, your urban farms. Seed collecting is one of the most important things for our future. As we are growing organically and trying to grow organically, we need to make sure that we can continue to rely upon ourselves and be self-sustaining. So seed collecting is one of the best ways to do that. And today I have some marigold seeds. These are giant marigolds. And they're very easy to collect. Once the head gets dead like this, we just pop it off the plant and pull out the little seeds. And as you can see, you can accumulate quite a few seeds, especially from marigolds. And marigolds are excellent pollinators. And they grow in various climates. So those of you all over the country will be able to find some marigolds that will work for you. And so just in a few seed casings, I've got quite a few seeds. And if I keep going with what I collected in here, you're going to see I'm going to fill up on seeds really, really, really quickly. And so my suggestion for you is to buy little seed packets like this. And you can say it's from your garden, and then maybe you can give some seeds away as gifts and things like that to help get other people into growing. I found these on Amazon, but of course you can find them on other sites if you do not want to shop at Amazon. No plug for Amazon, just where I happen to find them. Okay? So when you pull out your little seed casings, make sure you are drying everything thoroughly. And so the plant itself dried these for me, and the hot weather here in Indiana dried these for me. And so I didn't have to do much of anything other than wait until they were dried out to pick them. But when you are harvesting seeds, they need to be dry. There are various ways to dry lots of different types of seeds. That could be a whole tutorial in and of itself. But you want to make sure they're dry before you put them into any kind of long-term storage container. And you can use little plastic containers. You can use glass containers like your classic ball jar to put them in. But you do want to make sure that everything is dry before you seal anything. Otherwise, you can get mold. Same goes for things like if you're wanting to save beans. Beans in particular take a little bit longer than you want them to dry out. So you just want to make sure everything is nice and dry. And then we put them in our nice little seed packet. We can label what they are, and we know what we're going to do for next year. And then this way we can continue to collect our own seed, especially if you happen to accidentally hybridize something, as can happen when you're gardening, and you really like that thing. So you want to save seeds from it. So that's a part of the preservation process as well. Seed saving is definitely part of it. It's going to save you money in the long term and bring you a lot of joy when you see that you're growing from your own seed after a few years. And there are some things that you maybe don't grow from seed. And maybe you learn to do things like propagate. We'll talk about that in a second too. So moving on, I want to talk about some other ways to dry things out for preservation. Some of these things may be common to you. You may know them. Some may not be as common to you. I'm hoping to give a wide range of some ideas. I would have liked to done a full canning video, but really we need a couple of hours to do that in to show you the whole process. But I will talk about a little bit of refrigerator canning for you. So here we are. We have, this is last season's dried jalapenos, and this is some new season's. I think they're, I'm not really sure what these are. I got these from a friend. I actually do not know what these are, but I'm interested to find out. So I'm gonna cut them open. Normally I would wear gloves, but I don't have any here at the church where I am working from. Um, when I open them up like this, you can see there's a lot of seeds. I would want to cut out these seeds in order to save them. I do not want to scrape with my hands because that is how you get hot pepper under your nails, and that's no fun. And yeah, so I do recommend that when you're dealing with peppers of any sort, even if they're not hot per se, like a bell pepper, that you may just want to wear gloves just so that you don't get any of that capsation under your nails and things. So we cut out the insides as best as we can. We can kind of turn them over and do a little shaky, shaky, shake and get some of those seeds out too. We can use the knife to help us scrape some of those seeds out. But so in this way, I can push them over to the side and I can save them later. And because I'm not really sure what these seeds are, when I go to label them, I'm going to have a difficult time. So we always want to try to make sure we know what we have. I can just ask my friend, so that'll be really easy. But once I've got this open, I'm going to set this in a cool, dry place, and I'm going to let it dry like I did these jalapeno peppers. You can use these immediately. You can throw them into a salsa or whatever, but I like to do this with my peppers because eventually what I'm going to do is turn this into pepper salt. And how I do that is a process of drying them out, taking some pink Himalayan salt or some sea salt, some iodized Morton salt, even if I want to, maybe some other spices, and I put them in the blender here and I blend them up. And I get a nice salty pepper that I can add a little bit of flavor and not overpower myself too much. Even with a jalapeno, sometimes can kind of be too much if you're just having jalapeno flakes on things. Or you can do that. If you're somebody who likes a lot of heat, then you can combine a bunch of different peppers that you've dried out and put them in the food processor and get them into little flakes and put them right on your food. But that's an amazing way to preserve peppers and make them last a little bit longer and turn them from peppers into chiles when we dry them out. And then we've got something delicious that we can add on things. Again, if you have an abundance of peppers, you can do a lot of these at one time. If you have a food dehydrator, you can put them in a food dehydrator. If you just have some nice dry counter space, you can put them on the counter and let them dry out. But really, it's a great way to save your peppers. Another way that we like to save our peppers is that we take them, especially when we're dealing with a nice red pepper like this one. Again, we've got seeds coming out. I'm going to push them over to the other side so I'll keep them separate from these because I'm going to pick them up later and save them. And I will say that I've had pretty good luck with saved seeds. I have not had good luck with commercial saved seeds. If I'm buying organic seeds or I'm using a seed saver program and I'm growing them myself, I have really good luck germinating these saved seeds. But if I'm using commercially grown seeds, not so much. So I'm getting all the peppers out of the seeds out of this pepper here and getting all the membrane that I don't necessarily want to eat out. Some people are okay with that. And then I'm cutting this pepper into itty bitty little slices that I know that'll work great in a stir fry, slices that I could put with meat if I wanted to, or any kind of a soup dish. And then I'm going to grab You're going to see me do this a lot today. I'm going to grab a nice little plastic bag and I'm going to put the peppers in the bag and then I'm just going to stick them in the freezer. And unlike some other things where you parboil and stuff like that, peppers tend to hold up, onions tend to hold up this way, just stuck in the freezer, labeled. I make sure to label, I know what's going to be in here. So it's going to be red peppers. I label the month and the date, the year that I pulled these out of the garden. And I can just go to the freezer and pull out these peppers almost individually and put them into the soup or the food that I'm making. I can freeze them in a whole big batch, a big huge sandwich bag. If I have tons and tons of peppers, I can go to a huge gallon size bag and put all of them in there. And sometimes if they've frozen a little too solidly, I just need to kind of break them up a little bit by hitting them on the table, and they come out pretty good. And really all that is happening is I'm getting maybe a little extra water. And that can be really good for a lot of dishes, and or it'll cook off. So this way of saving peppers, even the hot peppers can be done this way as well. I prefer to turn the hot peppers into chiles and dry them out. But I can do that with I can put them in, cut them into slices and put them in the freezer as well. And then just add like one jalapeno or two jalapenos to a chili that I'm making. And then it's really pretty easy that way. So that's kind of what we'll do with peppers. And you're gonna see kind of a theme today that I'm going to be talking about freezing these different things in different ways in order to prolong their life. Um, it's Canning is great. Not everybody can spend the time on canning because it does require time. And some things that are low acid, you have to use a pressure canner for. So you can't just do a water bath can. And so those are two kinds of things. So tomatoes and fruit and anything with a high acid value, you can put in the hot water bath canner. And that's those big round canners that you probably seen your grandma have. And they sit on the counter, the stove top with all the jars, all of your ball jars and everything in them. A pressure canner is a huge, it can be a huge contraption that has an actual gauge on it. And you have to be really precise about your timing on those, what pressure you're canning at. And you have to follow instructions fairly closely to make sure that you don't hurt yourself, blow up the pressure canner, because it can and does blow up. Even the modern ones, even though they say that they're safe and regulated, they can still blow up if you're not adjusting your pressure correctly. And so this is freezing. Now that we have modern freezing and huge freezers galore, modern freezing is a little bit better and easier, more affordable way to go through uh, uh, chilies. Chilies are peppers that have been preserved. Yes and no. Sorry, I'm seeing your questions. Yes and no. Chilies are peppers that have been preserved. Yes, and they're also not. So someone who knows more about chilies will have to answer that question a little bit more. Yes. Yes, sure. Two different plant families. So freezer bags, yes. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna switch to herbs really quickly. Many of you have seen dried herbs that are hung up like this. They're strung up and then you hang them on a little hook and you can hang them for your wall until they're nice and dry. And then you can just pull off dried herbs, or you can strip them all once they're dry. So that is a really great method. I don't know how many of you have actually ever tried to do that method. So I'm going to just show you a little bit right now of how I like to do it. So I've cut this plant down. As you can see, I'm getting a little bit more of the woody area. I've pulled off the bottom parts of the plant because that's what I'm going to tie with. And I put the bottom parts that were down here of the leaves and stuff, I just set off to the side to dry as individual dried um, sage. So this is sage, by the way, for those who may or may not know. So I'm cutting the twine here. And this is like a baking twine. You can use like more industrial twine, so like the brown twine. You can use string from your knitting. It really doesn't matter. It's not going to affect the plant too much. I like to then loop the string that I have cut. I put it under. I'm going to wrap it a few times, and I'm going to try to be as tight as possible, because as this plant dries, it's going to shrink in the strings, right? Blending them in sauces. Yeah. So I see that. So what we're going to do here is just tighten that up. And now I have a ready-made loop. And so I'm going to put this through here to make sure this knot is good and tight. And so I can just hang this up quick and easy and wait till it dries out. Okay. Got to create, and we can hang, you can hang that in your pantry, you can hang it in your garage. You want to try to make sure that you're going to get a lot of dust on them, and about freezing them. And so yes, you can blend them into a sauce. But especially with rosemary, because I use a lot of rosemary if I'm doing baked chicken. And so the rosemary, I like to just stick it in a freezer bag as is. Okay. And I'll keep like several of these rosemary stalks in a freezer bag, and I will periodically maybe pull off some of them to put on a chicken. And especially with rosemary, you still get this freshness from them. Okay. And it is really great to have that freshness in the middle of winter when you want to do a roast chicken, or you're doing turkey for Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever holidays that you celebrate, where you want to put some fresh herbs on your meat. So you can just stick it straight in there. That is a great and valid way to freeze your herbs. Another good way we're going to get into here. I'm going to quickly also talk about how to propagate, because now's the time to start propagating. So when you cut down into the plant, as you can tell here, there is more white and new growth part of the plant, and this is the more woody old growth part of the plant. This part is the part that will take root. So we're going to strip the bottom parts of this plant. We're going to give it a good cut at the bottom, and then we would pot it up into dirt. Okay. And in fact, with this one, I could do multiples. I can cut a little bit off, still keeping the woody section in mind, strip this bottom part, and plant several of these into some dirt. Keep them inside, watered with some good light. And in the spring, I will have several good new rosemary starts to plant out all over my garden. And then come fall, I'll be swimming in rosemary. And we'll have twice as much as I did this year. So this is an amazing way to continue to get new plants from your old plants. You can do that with a lot of species. My favorite ones to do it with are rosemary, mint, thyme somewhat, and lavender. Lavender is a great one to do it with. Can you grow? Yeah, you can grow rosemary in a pot inside your house. You can pull from it while it's growing inside your house, or you can um, you can just leave it alone and let it grow and plant it out in the spring. This is also basil. And as you can see, I pulled it off of all the stems and see it's starting to get its brown stuff that it likes to do when you start messing with basil too much. So I could dry this out and sprinkle in some dry basil. I don't think that that is as flavorful as I want it to be. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my basil, and I've got my little food processor here. And I'm going to take my basil and I'm going to pop it in there. I'm going to stick as much of it in here as I possibly can. Boop, 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 boop. And because this isn't completely dry, it's still very much wet. I mean, it's still not wet, but it's still very much alive basil. It's not dry basil. This is the perfect time to do this. And I had to clean this basil and do a few things to it because there were some little bugs got into my setup. So into this, and you see how full this is, I'm going to put some avocado oil. You can put any kind of oil you like to use. I am just favoring avocado oil right now. And because this is full, I've probably used about a good third of the cup. I have a little bit of olive oil that I'm going to add into this as well. And that's probably another good third of a cup. So a lot of oil going in there. I'm going to put a pinch of my pink Himalayan salt in here. I'm also going to use a little bit of lemon juice. And so the salt, the lemon juice, and the oil are going to help preserve that basil. And I'm going to blend. And so if someone can mute my main screen, or maybe I can, because I don't want to blow your ears out while I do this. Sorry, my phone is not working. So I'm going to mute this while I blend. Okay, I have chopped, I have pureed, and so I see you guys talking about pesto. So while this is not pesto, you can make pesto. Pesto is great. I thought I'd show you something a little different. This is a basil, lemon, avocado oil, olive oil, lemon juice, and pink salt. And I've put this together like this because I can use it in more things than just Italian dishes, right? So if I'm making an Asian dish of some sort and I need the basil and some lemon juice and oil is not going to hurt that recipe, I've got it. So I've already done this with tons of other basil. I have a lot of basil right now. And so I just put this in here. I need a spoon. All right. 1 second. This kitchen is massive, so I'm like running all over the place. So I'm gonna take this, and then just pop this in the refrigerator, and this is gonna last all year long, okay? And especially if your refrigerator is set to a little bit colder, it will help preserve this a little bit better. But the salt, the oil, and the lemon juice is what's really helping to keep this kind of as fresh as you possibly can. I feel like sometimes when we stick with basil in particular, and we do the pesto cubes in the freezer, the pesto turns quite black and doesn't retain as much of a freshness quality. You get that black and brown kind of pesto. And while that's lovely and wonderful and delicious, it doesn't quite hit the spot the way that I want when especially if I'm adding it to Asian dishes. Okay, especially like if I'm making some Thai food, and I want some basil. This is my go-to rather than to put a basil, dry basil in, or a pesto, because I don't want so this won't mold. It should not mold in the refrigerator because I put enough salt in. And so you need about a good tablespoon of salt in here when you're mixing this up. Okay, good amount of salt is in there. The lemon juice is in there. I'm also putting this in a refrigerator that is a little more shredded or a little more cold than a regular refrigerator is. So it's not frozen. Nothing in my refrigerator is frozen, but it is a little more chilled than the standard, setting. You know how they have like the snowflakes. You get snowflakes 1, snowflakes 2, snowflakes 3, snowflakes 4. I'm on a 2 to 3 sometimes, so that it's a little colder. Stuff that sits at the top where the cold comes out may have a little bit of freeze to it, but not too much. Okay, hold on 1 second. I wish this was a professional cooking show so that I could have everything ready for me, but I do not have that budget. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you another thing that I love to do, and makes a great gift too. So I'm cleaning out I'm just kind of giving my mixer a quick wash, and now I'm going to dry it out on the inside as best as I can.
Hey, Jada,
Yeah, my love.
what are some of the things that you then put those in once you're cooking?
The basil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I'm making like a tom kai soup, a Thai tom kai soup, I will put it in there. If I'm making maybe just a noodle soup that has coconut in it or ginger in it, the basil really mixes really well in it. Sometimes if I'm making something that's, I'm not the best Asian chef there is, but I like to play with those flavors. So sometimes I'll put basil in if I'm just making a stir fry even, as a nice aromatic. I'll put some of this basil in there. I just made a really delicious tomato, bean, rice, carrot soup that I put the basil in, and it just took that soup to another level. And I'm going to show you the base of that soup here in a minute. And how I was able to make that here in a minute. So the next thing I'm going to do is take some more of my basil, put it in here. And I'm not going to put as much in as I did last time, because I'm going to put the salt in. So again, I'm using pink Himalayan salt, you can use sea salt, you can use table salt. It is all up to you. I just have an abundance of pink Himalayan salt, as you can see. Great trick to finding this. If you are someone who lives near a TJ Maxx or a TK Maxx, they always have tons and tons of pink Himalayan salt in their little food section, and you can get huge bags of it. So if you prefer something that is a little more iodized, the pink Himalayan salt is great for that. Okay, I put in quite a bit of salt in here. Let's call that a third or fourth of a, or actually I'm going to say a third of a cup. And then I'm going to just add just a little bit of the iodized salt here, just because I want a little different flavor. And you can do this particular trick with any herb. Okay, so I do this a lot when I have tons and tons of herbs. I make herbed salt. And yes, what about people on low salt diets? Don't do this. So this is just a suggestion. The other thing is if you are on a low salt diet, you can do pepper in here instead of salt. So I do herb salts and I do herbed pepper. And okay, so I'm going to blend this up. So once again, I'm going to save your and as you see, we're blending this up. And because I have a good ratio of herb to salt, I'm getting a really nice blend in here. I would keep blending this until it was pretty much as all of the herbs would be as blended as much as I possibly could get them into this. And then I take this out, I put it on parchment paper on top of a cooking sheet, and I place it in the oven on the lowest heat setting that your oven will go, with the door slightly open for about 20 minutes. The other alternative is to sit it out on that parchment paper on your tabletop to let everything dry. And when you're done, you should have something that looks like this. Can you see that there? So this is a nice herbed salt. It's dry and it is intensely flavorful. You can use this as a finishing salt. You can also use this as a as like an additive in your meals, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I'm seeing people ask some questions. I'm going to answer them. Is that basil dry? This basil was not dry as in completely dried out. No, it was pretty fresh off of the plant, but it had been washed and then dried, but it wasn't dried out. Does that make sense? Yes. Oh, thank you. If you're watching your sodium intake, thank you for that suggestion. And so I can make tons of this salt. This is just what's left over from another salt making that I did here in the church. Tons of this salt with very little herbs, and therefore great gifts to give away if you work at a farmer's market like I do. We sell these to our clients and they love them. The same thing you can do with the peppers, the dried jalapenos we talked about earlier, that work great. You can blend this up. The one thing I will tell you when you are blending peppers, and I forgot to mention this earlier, when you blend peppers, especially when they're dried out like this, and you're blending them with salt or you're just blending them by themselves, keep the lid on and let the dust inside settle before you take the lid off, and don't put your face down into it. Keep your face away from that as you're lifting it up, because it will release a little particles of pepper. So I suggest, one, you wear gloves when you're doing that, and two, you wear a mask when you're doing peppers, because it can really hurt your lungs that way. The basil, not so much. Okay, the basil, not so much. Yeah, so that's one of the things. And then we've got one more thing I want to show you before we end the session. We'll clean up just a little bit. I'm dirty everywhere. This is what my kitchen looks like, by the way, at all times. Completely messy. So this, I have tons of tomatoes. I have tons of yellow tomatoes. Some of you that were in the last cooking demo may remember my yellow tomatoes. These lovely yellow tomatoes are growing very prolifically in my garden this year. They're called pear yellow tomatoes because they have this cute pear shape to them, little baby butts. So the soup that I was talking about earlier, this is how I made the base for it. So I put lovely pear-shaped tomatoes, cut some onions, and again, see, I'm sort of half-heartedly doing this. I'm not really trying to get any particular size or anything. I put this in the oven at 350, baked for 15 to 20 minutes, depending on when they started popping and all the everything started melting. Oh, I forgot, I put some oil on it. That's what it was. So I've well oiled that. I have also put some of my special magic mix. You can put whatever herbs you wish on your yumminess, but this is my special magic mix. It does have turmeric in it. It does have paprika in it, and I won't tell you anything further. And so, no, just kidding. It has salt, it has pepper, it has garlic in it. I put my magic mix on everything because I'm trying to get as much um, turmeric in my body as possible these days. I'm getting older. I also made a little tomatillo salsa last year, and I made a little more tomatillo salsa this year. So I'm actually putting this on as a nice little flavoring into this. Excuse me. I'm going to put this in the oven at 350, a preheated oven at 350 for 15 to 20 minutes. It could be up to 25 because I'm waiting for these big pears to kind of pop, release their juices. Once that is done, I can wait for it to cool down. I get this nice mash of tomatoey goodness. I wait for it to cool down. I then pop it in a large bag, a large freezer safe bag, label what it is. And I make several of these bags, and they are the best basis for a tomato based soup stock because it's already got all the flavor in it. And so I can quickly make a soup together. I can quickly pull a delicious soup together. I can just eat this as a lovely, when it defrosts, I can just eat this as a lovely tomato soup, just add a little bit of water to it, some milk if you like, that kind of something to thicken it up. And I've got a really quick and easy soup. Or I can put this into the basis for a Mexican dish or an Italian dish. And I've got something really tasty all ready to go from my freezer with a little bit of prep from me that I needed to do anyways because I'm trying to save my tomatoes, right? Trying to save them as best as possible. So we just kind of plop this into the oven. I'm not sure it's going to be done in time. I'm really bad at gauging time. I have ADHD, and that's me. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is another quick and easy way to preserve tomatoes. Now, a lot of people like to stick their tomatoes in some water to loosen the skin, to take the skin off, and then they parboil them, put them into the freezer, or they can their tomatoes. Canning tomatoes is great. It takes a lot of time. If you don't have a canner, you're screwed, right? So the easiest thing for me to do is I come and I cut out the core, and then if there's a bad spot like this baby, I just cut that bad spot out. Go through all my little tomatoes, cut out that core. If one part is ripe but the other part is not, you know how it gets towards the end of the season when the heat is being a pain in the butt and you haven't attended your tomato patch as well as you should have, and you've got tomatoes looking raggedy but they're still delicious. This is one of the best ways to preserve them, I think. Again, I'm pouring all of these guys. Yeah, I'll get to the questions here in a second. I see your questions popping up. My brain is going at overtime. Just trying to get all the bad spots that I see off the tomato and get that core out of there, just because I don't want it when I'm going to be cooking. And like sometimes you get the little reject tomatoes that are not so great for just eating, but they're great for cooking. Okay, so just cut those all up. And I had a variety of tomatoes there, not just one kind of tomato, a variety of tomatoes. And so I've labeled my bag, my tomato bag, and I'm just going to stick them all in there with the skins on. Okay. Get them in there, seal them up. A little trick to get all of the air out of here. And of course I don't have it, but you can kind of squish it down a little bit. But also I put a little straw in the end and I suck out all the air. And so I can get this a little more airtight. But I'm going to just stick these tomatoes right in the freezer like this. And then anytime I need to make a pasta sauce or like I said, a tomato soup or something like that, I just pull these out, cook them down, and remove the skins if I want to, or leave the skins for extra nutrients. But this is when my tomatoes are producing so much that I can't keep up with canning, let alone, or I don't have the time it takes to do the canning. This is the quickest and easiest way that I know how to just quickly get these tomatoes ready and preserve and use them later down the line. I had a farmer friend tell me this, but this is what they do when they have tons and tons of excess that they can't sell at market, that they can't sell to their local grocery store. They just put them all in the biggest bags that they can find, because they have way more than I do, but they put them in the biggest bags they can find and stick them in the freezer and use and sell those later. Or they can later in the winter time when they have more time, when they're not working on the farm so much. But this is one of the best ways. And I like to put them in smaller bags like this because it's just me and my wife. We don't have we don't have kids. We don't have tons and tons of family that come around when I'm cooking, you know. So it's just the two of us. So just this is perfect for something I'm going to make for ourselves, right? So if you have tons more tomatoes and you want to put them in bigger bags because you need that much when you're making something and you don't want to waste bags, then that's totally fine. Do that. Let me get to some of your questions real quick. You said, ooh, I'm sorry. This is going faster than I can see.
Jada, I can also read. One
I
question
see.
was, could you say more about the different things you put those tomatoes in once you pull them out to cook?
Sure, sure. So if say I'm making a Mexican dish, like say if I'm doing if I want to make a quick cooked salsa, that's a perfect cooked salsa. If I want to make like tamale pie, or if I'm say if I'm baking some, or I'm pan frying some corn and I want a little tomatoes in with the corn, that is delicious. Same with like for an Italian dish. If I'm making an Italian dish, so I've made the pasta, I have defrosted those tomatoes that are in the oven down, and I want to put that as a sauce already. If it's already flavored, I can just quick make the pasta, cook that sauce down. Basically I'm just heating it up, and I can just plop it right onto my pasta and go. And so it's the quickest way to eat in that way. If I want to adjust the spice a little bit, I can do it there. If I want to add some extra veggies into it, I can do it there. If I want to have some fresh tomatoes on top of it, I can do it then. But I also that's a great basis for a tomato soup that I just recently made. It's a great basis for a tomato bisque, even if you want to do that. So yeah. And then the spice mix that I make, it's called my magic mix. It has paprika, turmeric, uh, ginger, oh, excuse me, not ginger, garlic, black pepper, salt, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. If you want to make it spicy, then you put jalapenos in it.
Do you have any suggestions for cucumbers?
I saw that. Cucumber suggestions. For the long-term storage of cucumbers, you're looking at pickles. Um, Cucumbers don't do so well in the freezer, I've found. So you're really looking at pickling them. You can juice them and save the cucumber juice. That works pretty well in the freezer for sure. Um, but really with cucumbers, you're looking at pickling them for a long-term storage option at the end of the summer. Um, but if you have a juicer, you can juice them. And then you've got, good frozen cucumber concentrate, which is a great basis for any kind of a smoothie or a juice that you want to make in the future.
Gotcha. Thank you. Kim asks if you need to wash your herbs before freezing, or are you good to just give them a shake?
I wash my herbs before freezing. So all of the herbs that you see here have been washed before they were dried, washed before they've been frozen. Um, some of them have just had like kind of a spray off with the hose. I find that especially my rosemary attracts this bug that puts this little sticky, oh, here, I found some. This is one that hadn't been washed. I pre-prepped the other ones. You see this sticky white stuff right there? I don't really know what that is. And so I have to wash this before I finish doing what I'm gonna do with this batch of rosemary, which is I'm gonna turn it into rosemary salt, most likely. And or I'm gonna put some in the freezer.
Gotcha. Mark asks, which fruits freeze well? He gives the example of apples tending to get tough once they're freeze. So if you had any suggestions for how to freeze them so that they're as close to the same texture and properties as when they're fresh, we'd love to hear
Okay.
them.
So I make a lot of applesauce and I forage wild fruit for my applesauce. And because they're wild, they may have some bad spots on them, or I need to core them, and I need to deal. I get a lot of them, so I need to deal with it really quickly. And so I have to cut all of that up and freeze it, and then I can get to making the applesauce. The trick that I've found to them not getting so tough is that as I'm cutting them, I drop them into a water and lemon juice like solution, right? And so they're sitting in the lemon juice. The lemon juice is helping them from getting brown, but that's also it for whatever reason, once it goes into the freezer bag, they just stay crisper.
Mm,
The other thing with apples is I okay, freeze an apple, fine. I prefer applesauce. Um, and applesauce is really easy to then put into other things. You can also go ahead and cook your apples, put them into an apple, like if you're gonna make apple pie filling, you can cook them. You can that apple pie filling if you want to. You can also put them into freezer bags and just freeze them as apple pie filling because they have sugar in them, they have acid in them. They're going to be fine in the freezer. Again, you're saving your abundance to use when you're not having a garden, right? And so hopefully you use this stuff over the winter time into the springtime before these things are coming up. So hopefully they're not sitting in there for years and years. You don't want them to sit in there for years and years. You want to use them fairly quickly, or you're going to get freezer burn and things like that.
yeah.
Other
Jada,
fruits,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, other fruits that freeze well are berries. Berries freeze great, as we all know. Here in Indiana, it's pawpaw season, and I wish I would have brought my pawpaws to show you. But for those of you who don't live in the region where pawpaws are plentiful, they are the only North American tropical fruit. They taste like a combination between a banana, a pineapple, and a mango. My wife says that to her they taste like creme brulee. But we have to separate the seeds and the skin from the pawpaws. And so we just save the pulp. The same with the American persimmon. We pulp it and save the pulp. So things that are really more pulpy, again, like bananas, it is better to pulp your banana and save your banana rather than just sticking the old black banana in the freezer. It is maybe easier to stick your little black banana in the freezer, but it is better to pulp it. You'll get a better flavor from it.
Okay. We're just about out of time here. Um, okay, really quick. Do you wash your berries before freezing?
Yes,
Yeah. So Jada, just about any
the old
time I ask you, I have too much of whatever,
yeah,
how can I preserve this? I think 99% of the time you tell me to just freeze it and eat it within a certain amount of time. So
yeah.
what is your typical go-to rule for that? Like just freeze it and use within a certain number of months.
I say 6 months to a year, and I do tell you to freeze stuff a lot. and and it's because of the fact that canning is time consuming. And it does require a knowledge of science. It really does. It
Mhm.
requires you to know acidity. It requires you to know your timing, and you have to be taught how to can. Um, sure, you can learn from a book. It is so much easier to learn by someone showing you, and then learning their mistakes and learning from their mistakes, because botulism is a real thing. So yeah, I would say you want to use what's in your freezer 6 months to a year. In particular, meat, it does go bad. You will get freezer burn. Things will lose their taste. They won't taste as good if you go further out than that. And the goal should be, especially if we are doing sustainable gardening and sustainable gardening practices, that we are planning out our garden, that we are getting abundance from our garden, and then we are using that abundance in the months where there is no abundance to keep us from going to the grocery store and eating crappy GMO food.
Snaps
And
to that.
yeah, the last thing I'm going to tell you about, which I've told you about millions and millions of times, is to save your scrap. All of these little scraps, I can take some of the worst bad parts off of this, but these little scraps, along with the scraps from the onions, go into a freezer bag, and then I make veggie stock. Great for broth. That's right. I make a veggie stock from this. I have not bought veggie stock, and I've not bought veggie stock from the store in 10 plus years. Because if you're making any kind of food, you're going to have these little scraps, and you're going to be able to make something delicious out of those scraps. The other thing is to save your nice onion skin and your garlic skin, dry them out in either an air or a dehydrator. I mean, they are kind of dry, but you want to make sure they're really, really dry. You want to put them in the dehydrator. You want to put them in the oven, dry them out, and then you can grind them up in a food processor and get, this is garlic skin, and you get this little flavorful, lovely roasted garlic smell. This is good on like popcorn, but it's also good to just mix in like you would garlic. Okay, it's not going to be as strong as garlic, but it's a lovely little thing. This is great for popcorn as well. Oddments, yes. The joy of cooking calls us, yes, oddments. I love that. Any other questions for me before we
Oh,
go?
we need to wrap up actually.
Okay, all right.
Um, Alrighty. So thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of Green America's Climate Victory Gardens community. Together, we can make a real difference in creating positive change for our planet and its people. You can keep the momentum going and stay connected by subscribing to our newsletter to remain informed about our latest campaigns, events, and sustainability tips. Your support fuels our work toward a greener, fairer future. Consider donating today to help us continue our vital programs and initiatives, including these free gardening webinars. Every contribution counts. Remember, your actions matter, and together we can build a more sustainable and just world. Thank you for your commitment to creating positive change. And while if you've been here before, you know I usually put up a registration for the next webinar. We don't have one on the calendar yet, but I can tell you behind the scenes, we're planning up more of a green living webinar series. So if there's a green living topic you'd really be interested in learning more about, please put that in the chat before you leave. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Jada. This was so wonderful and informative.
Thank you.